Let's talk about how you can add error handling code to your store procedures. So I'm working on the insert customer store procedure I had previously. And before we had the begin try and the begin transaction, commit transaction. We still have that, but you'll see that I've included a begin try and end try block around that code. So we begin and end the store procedure, but then we begin a try block and begin the transaction inside. If the transaction is successful, if there's no errors at all, we will commit the transaction. Now, if on the other hand something goes wrong, common things to go wrong would be like I'm trying to insert duplicate names or email address. I have a unique constraint on there that says you can't put in a duplicate email address. If that were to happen, it would jump from the begin try block to the begin catch block, and it would do some code. In this case, it's just printing out an error number and an error message. But it would also roll back the transaction. Because the transaction had caused an error, we're going to go ahead and roll back the transaction. This is considered a better way of writing your insert, update, and delete store procedures, and the way I want you guys to create your store procedures when you go through and do the homework. So to execute it now, I just go through and execute it as normal, but if I try to put in a duplicate value, I'm going to get an error message. Violation of a unique constraint, cannot insert duplicate key. Duplicate key value is the S. Jones email. Now, of course, if I try to put in something else, that should work just fine. Transaction is started, transaction is committed. If I look at the transaction count, I'll see that it's at 0 because the transaction was started and started and committed. Anyway, using a try-catch block inside your store procedures is definitely easy to do and definitely a best practice. These error message number, the number and the error message, let's see here. Over here it never ran because it never ran code in the catch block. But if I try to do this again, the code in the catch block will run. The error number shows up this value, and of course the error message is what we see down here. Without that, if I were to go back and, let's see, how far back do I have to go? Quite a bit. Trying to put in a duplicate value does cause me an error message. I get the same error message, but it doesn't give me the opportunity to present custom error message. The one I have now does indeed give me an opportunity to do it. I'm just not using the opportunity very well. But I can go through and use Microsoft's error message as a starting point. Oops. Common issues include duplicate email addresses. I think I'll put that up top. Okay. Now I have my own custom error message, and it needs some work, but it's a start. And that might help people to understand the error message. What I've noticed over time is that people see the first part of the error message and they never scroll to the side. They just start trying to fix the error. And that can be, really time consuming when you don't read the entire error message. But it happens all the time. At least it happens in classes all the time anyway. Of course, we could actually put in a lot more of these functions. Microsoft has a whole bunch of these. Error number is just one of those examples. There is also the severity level, the state, the procedure name, the line that the error was caused on, and of course error message. These are handy to use. I find that these first two, error number and message, is probably the most handy. But play around with them a little bit and see which ones you think are useful. Next up, we'll take a look at how stored procedures can return status about what's going on inside of it using return codes.